Hi everyone, in this video I'm testing out Sony's latest generation in-body image stabilization that's in their new A series of mirrorless cameras to see how effective it really is.
Hi folks, please jump over to mattgranger.com. You can scroll down and sign up to the mailing list. It's all free. Get up to date with what's going on. You can go up the top here and see all the different events I'm holding around the world, plus EOIs for places I'm considering going if you'd like me to come to your town. And check out the video series, all of my different complete download series for your entertainment.
Stabilization is not a new topic. It's something we've been talking about for years. Early on, Nikon and Canon decided to go down the route of only putting it in their lenses, arguing that having a stabilization unit specific to the lens would give a better result. Other brands like Olympus and Sony decided to put it in body. So look, there's real advantages to it. Some people say you don't need it at certain focal lengths, but the advantage of it at any focal length is if I can shoot a shot on my 200mm, 50mm, 25mm, whatever, one stop slower because of the vibration control or the image stabilization, I can then drop my ISO by a stop, giving a cleaner image, or I have more latitude with my aperture. So that has a real value on any focal length. And the value of having it on mirrorless is that mirrorless lets you mount so many different lenses onto your camera, including legacy glass, and then all of them become stabilized as well. For example, I'm filming this right now with the Panasonic GH4 and my 55mm Zeiss Otis via a Metabones adapter, so it really opens things up to you. To do the testing today, I'm going to go real world experiments and how you're likely to really use them. So no tripods, no monopods, no shoulder rigs. I'm going to do a simple hand holding test to see how slow of a shutter speed I can get a sharp shot, and then a walking test in video and a panning test in video. To compare, I've got the 25mm Bardus lens from Zeiss. It's non-stabilized. I'll use it on the A7 II with and without the in-body stabilization on to compare. And then I'll also get the Sony 24 to 70mm lens at 25mm, and it is stabilized, the lens itself, so I'll turn the stabilization off in the body. And then we'll have three different ones to compare there: in lens, in body, and no stabilization. Let's go outside and check it out. All right, so let's do a bit of hand holding here to see how much the image stabilization in the camera is working. The 25mm Bardus lens from Zeiss, no stabilization in it. So I've turned off the steady shot in the camera, and let's start at a 50th of a second. You would hope that at this kind of a wide focal length, it's not a problem, but you will have objects moving here at a 25th. You know, the trees in the background are likely to move, but hopefully our tripods will remain constant. Let's try a 10th. Let's try a 6th. And a quarter. And a half. And let's go through to a full second. Have a quick little look there. So looking on the back of the screen, it looks like about the best I did there was a 1/6 of a second.
Taking a look on the computer, that seems accurate. There we go, that is a 1/6 of a second. And then my next one, stacking it on top, that's a 1/4 of a second. You can see from there it went blurry. Not bad though. Skills.
So let's jump in now, turn the steady shot on. And let's do it all again, starting off at a 50th. 25th. Where did I go to next? The 10th. The 6th. Quarter? I think so. Let's try a half. And a full second. Let's throw them up on screen and see how I did on the two.
Okay, this time we did do better. That with the IBIS on at a 1/4 of a second, solid as a rock. Here we go at a half though, getting blurry, but it's still an improvement. Let's put them side by side. There they are at a 1/4 on and off, and then at a half on and off. Now we might as well see the full second ones as well. There we go, on and off.
Okay, so last one for the hand holding. Now I'm turning the steady shot off again, but using the stabilized 24-70 lens. So let's see how this goes at a 50th. Didn't need 3 for this kind of a shot. A 25th, a 10th, 6th, quarter, half, and then a full second. Okay, let's go back into the office and see how each of them looks full screen.
Well, on this single pass test, it looks like the lens stabilization is about on par, that at a quarter of a second, and then it's falling apart at a half and a full second. Having looked at them all full screen, let's look at them side by side. I actually think that the in-body stabilization did the best. There we go at a half second and then a full second. Rewind that if you want to compare them 1 to 1.
Okay, so stills is one thing. These cameras are set up for great video as well though. So let's just do a simple test. This is all really simple stuff. Of course, it's going to depend exactly on what you're shooting. But let's just do a little walking, wobble and pan test using again an unstabilized lens with the steady shot on and off, and then using a stabilized lens with the camera stabilization off, and see how the 3 of them all stack up. Okay, so this is our first test. This is using the 25mm unstabilized lens, and I've got the steady shot off. I'm going to try and walk fairly, calmly. I'll just walk towards the tree and let's see how it goes. So here we are, walking. Sorry, that was me, I threw it out of focus. Walking. Okay, same thing now. I have the steady shot on. It looks like, okay, the steps are obviously noticeable, but I think it's the little hand movement side to side, like that looks quite smooth what I'm doing there. And so does that. I have a feeling those are quite different when the steady shot's off. Let me just try that. Again, a wiggle, and then a pan. Okay, now turning it off. Here we are off. So a wiggle, and then a pan. Now let's get the stabilized lens. Okay, now here we are on the 24-70 f4 lens at around 25mm. The in-body stabilization is off, but the lens stabilization is on. To me, it looks similar to in-body, maybe a bit different. Let's try the wiggle, and then the pan. Let's throw them side by side in the office.
Warning! You may get seasick watching this, guys. Sorry, but here we go. For me, it's definitely the middle or the right, one of the stabilized ones. Maybe for the walking, the lens stabilized, but the IBIS in the middle is pretty close. And then here on the panning, I think the in-body is probably ahead. What do you think? Leave me a comment below and let me know which one you thought gave the best results.
So folks, what did you think of all of that? Of course, I'm not surprised that stabilization is helping with hand holding, whether it's stills or video. Of course it does. And it's going to come down the results you get to your own technique. I've got a pretty steady hand when it comes to stills, but I have a pretty rough gait in my walk. So that video is a lot rougher than some people's would be who are a bit more nimble. So, for me, out of the 2 of them, I felt that the in-body image stabilization, the sensor shift that the Sony A7 is implementing, the Mark II, sorry, it was slightly ahead of what they have in their 24-70 lens. And again, it depends from lens to lens how the performance of them actually are. Throughout all the brands, that's true. The main advantage for me though of in-body image stabilization is that means on the Sony via an adapter I can put my Otis lenses, or I can take an old manual Olympus or Nikon or Canon or whatever, pop it on there and get all of the benefits of it's being able to meter still, getting focus peaking, zooming in for confirmation, but it also, by the sensor shifting, it applies that stabilization to all lenses. So we were doing the test with this modern 25mm Bardis lens from Zeiss, but it doesn't need to be a modern one to benefit from the on-sensor stabilization. So there you go. For those of you who are wondering how good the stabilization actually is, we saw at least a good stop or two in there. This is their 24 megapixel camera. On a 12 megapixel camera, you might see even more because the amount that it needs to move, there's less pixels being affected, whereas something like the upcoming A7R2, the stabilization is going to be more critical because, for example, a 1 millimeter shift could be, 10,000 pixels instead of 6,000 pixels, making up numbers here, but you get my point, I'm sure. Please leave me any questions or comments. Let us know what's your great setup for stabilization. Do you prefer in-body or in-lens? And I'll see you soon. Loki, you're not allowed on the desk. Get off. You know how much those lenses are worth? Come on, off. How many times do I have to tell you? Huh? When you weigh more than an Otis, then you can start to play with them. Fair deal? Okay, go play with some boxes.